You can buy a 6,000 square foot Victorian mansion in America right now for less than a used Honda Civic. Not a teardown, not a scam listing, an actual house with turrets, wraparound porches, and crown molding that took craftsmen weeks to install by hand. The catch? It's in a town that's been dying so slowly, people stopped noticing when the last grocery store closed. These aren't fixer-uppers in up-and-coming neighborhoods. These are architectural masterpieces in places where up-and-coming went up and left 30 years ago. We're talking about towns where the population peaked during the Taft administration and has been in free fall ever since. You can walk into a 4,000 square foot brick home for the price of a decent gaming laptop, assuming you're okay with being the only person on your block who still pays property taxes. If watching real estate that costs less than a semester of college sounds like your kind of economic horror show, stick around. Let's start in a place that Wikipedia literally describes as a ghost town. Cairo, Illinois sits at the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers, which sounds prestigious until you realize it's also at the confluence of abandonment and decay. Mark Twain once called it the probable future Cairo of the New World. He was spectacularly wrong. The town peaked at 15,000 people in 1920 and now hovers around 2,500. The famous Millionaire's Row still stands, sort of. Massive Victorian mansions with intact ballrooms and servant quarters, many of which you can buy for under $50,000. The median home price is around $38,000, which would be a steal if the median household income wasn't $22,000. What nobody tells you is that buying cheap in Cairo means becoming the caretaker of a building in a town with almost no tax base, no grocery stores, and a crime rate that punches well above its tiny population. You're not buying a house. You're buying a very expensive lawn ornament that occasionally needs a new roof. The streets are so empty that Google Street View looks like a film set after everyone went home. And if you think a town of 1,500 sounds rough, wait until you see what happened to Gary. Gary, Indiana was built by US Steel in 1906 as a company town, and when Steel died, Gary went with it. The population collapsed from 175,000 in 1960 to under 70,000 today, leaving behind entire neighborhoods of massive brick homes that once housed Steel executives. You can find 3,000 square foot houses here for under $30,000, assuming you're comfortable with Gary's violent crime rate being roughly triple the national average. The median household income sits at $33,000, and the poverty rate hovers around 34%. These aren't cute Victorians. They're stolid, all-brick fortresses built to last forever, which turned out to be a design flaw when forever arrived and nobody wanted them. Gary's proximity to Chicago should make it valuable. It's a 40-minute train ride to downtown, but decades of disinvestment, environmental contamination from the steel mills, and a reputation that precedes it by 3 states have turned it into a real estate punchline. You're buying structural integrity in a town that lost its structure. The industrial lakefront views are apocalyptic in a way that's almost beautiful if you squint. Then there's the Rust Belt's favorite punching bag. Detroit, Michigan gets attention for its comeback story, and parts of downtown genuinely are coming back. But venture outside the spotlight zones into neighborhoods near the North End or around the old Boston Edison edges, and you'll find the Detroit that hasn't read the press releases. Massive homes, some over 4,000 square feet, regularly list for under $50,000, occasionally under $20,000. The median household income is around $36,000 with a poverty rate near 33%. Detroit's violent crime rate has improved, but still runs about 5 times the national average in many neighborhoods. What nobody tells you is that cheap Detroit real estate often comes with back taxes, structural issues the listing photos crop out, and the reality that your nearest neighbor might be 4 houses down because everyone else left. The city has demolished tens of thousands of homes, but there are still too many houses and not enough people. You're buying into a city trying to reinvent itself while managing the logistics of its own shrinkage. It's urban planning as triage. St. Louis has the same problem, just with better barbecue. St. Louis, Missouri, specifically the North City neighborhoods, is a masterclass in what happens when white flight meets economic collapse meets decades of disinvestment. The grand, all-brick multi-story homes in areas like Old North or Walnut Park are architectural marvels built during the city's late 1800s heyday. Now they sell for $30,000 to $50,000, sometimes less. The median house household income in North City can dip below $25,000, with poverty rates approaching 40%. St. Louis has one of the highest murder rates per capita in the country, most concentrated in North City. The houses themselves are stunning. 3 stories, original hardwood, leaded glass windows, craftsmanship you can't buy new for any price. But the neighborhoods are hollowed out. Vacant lots outnumber occupied homes on some blocks. The city has been losing population since 1950. You're buying beauty in a food desert where the nearest grocery store might be a 30-minute bus ride. That's not a fixer-upper situation. That's a lifestyle downgrade wrapped in ornate brickwork. Danville offers a quieter version of the same decline. Danville, Virginia is tobacco country that ran out of tobacco money. The Old West End neighborhood is famous among cheap house hunters for move-in ready Victorian mansions that defy logic. We're talking $40,000 for a fully restored 3,500 square foot home with a turret. The median household income in Danville is around $38,000, with a poverty rate near 22%. The violent crime rate is lower than Gary or St. Louis, but the economic opportunity is just as bleak. Danville's population has been declining for decades as the textile and tobacco industries packed up. What nobody tells you is that move-in ready means ready for you to move in and immediately start wondering where you're going to work. The job market is anemic. The downtown has the faded charm of a place that keeps trying and keeps falling short. You can live like architectural royalty for the price of a used car, but you'll be doing it in a town where the most exciting thing is the new Dollar General. It's dignified poverty in a pretty wrapper. Cleveland trades dignity for sheer abandonment. Cleveland, Ohio, particularly East Cleveland, is where industrial-era wealth went to die slowly and ornately. The massive homes built for factory owners and managers in the early 1900s now sit in neighborhoods where the median household income barely cracks $20,000 and the poverty rate exceeds 40%. You can find 3,000 to 4,000 square foot homes for under $50,000, many of them brick or stone construction that will outlast the neighborhoods. East Cleveland's violent crime rate is among the highest in Ohio, and the city has flirted with state takeover multiple times due to fiscal insolvency. The houses have bones. The neighborhoods have ghosts. What nobody tells you is that East Cleveland isn't just cheap because it's rough. It's cheap because the entire municipal infrastructure is failing. Schools are underfunded, services are cut to the bone, and the tax base has evaporated. You're buying into a place where the local government can barely keep the lights on, let alone provide the amenities that make home ownership worthwhile. It's a masterclass in how a place can have everything structurally and nothing functionally. Wheeling takes that concept and adds mountains. Wheeling, West Virginia is tucked into the Appalachian Hills along the Ohio River, and it's quietly one of the best kept secrets in Victorian architecture, if you define best kept secret as nobody wants it. Massive hillside manors with river views regularly appear on the market for $30,000 to $50,000, sometimes less. The median household income hovers around $40,000, with a poverty rate near 20%. Wheeling's population peaked at 61,000 in 1930 and now sits closer to 26,000. The houses are spectacular. Multi-story Victorians with original woodwork, turrets, balconies, the works. But Wheeling is isolated. It's 2 hours from Pittsburgh, an hour from nowhere, and the job market reflects that. The local economy depends heavily on healthcare and education, which means stable but not lucrative. You're buying a mansion where your commute options are limited and resale prospects grim. It's architectural indulgence for people who don't care about being connected to anywhere else. And if Wheeling feels isolated, Youngstown feels abandoned on purpose. Youngstown, Ohio is one of the fastest shrinking cities in American history, collapsing from 170,000 people in 1930 to under 60,000 today. The steel mills closed, the people left, and the houses stayed. Massive family homes, many over 3,000 square feet, can be had for under $40,000, sometimes under $20,000. The median household income is around $32,000, poverty rate near 35%, and the violent crime rate is significantly above the national average. Youngstown has experimented with planned shrinkage, literally demolishing neighborhoods and returning land to green space because maintaining infrastructure for a ghost town doesn't make fiscal sense. What nobody tells you is that buying in Youngstown means buying into a city that has accepted it's never coming back. There's no revitalization plan, there's a managed decline plan. You're getting a deal because the city has given up on the dream that people might want to live there again. It's honest. West. In a bleak sort of way, Jamestown offers a slightly less bleak version of the same deal. Jamestown, New York is lumber baron country, and the massive wooden Victorians they left behind are now prime real estate for the cheap old house crowd. Homes regularly list for $30,000 to $60,000, many of them genuinely stunning with original details intact. The median household income is around $38,000, poverty rate near 19%, and the violent crime rate is mercifully low compared to Gary or St. Louis. Jamestown's population has been in slow decline since its manufacturing peak, but it hasn't collapsed the way Youngstown did. The downtown has a scrappy, trying hard energy. What nobody tells you is that Jamestown is remote. It's an hour and a half from Buffalo, 2 hours from Erie, and surrounded by not much. The job market is limited, the winters are brutal, and the cultural amenities are what you'd expect from a town of 28,000. You're buying space and history in exchange for connectivity and opportunity. It's a fair trade if you value quiet over convenience. And if that sounds tolerable, Pine Bluff will recalibrate your expectations. Pine Bluff, Arkansas rounds out the list with Southern-style historic homes sitting empty in a town that has been hemorrhaging people for decades. The population dropped from 57,000 in 1980 to under 40,000 today, leaving behind large homes that now sell for under $40,000. The median household income is around $36,000. The poverty rate exceeds 25%, and the violent crime rate is among the highest in Arkansas. These aren't rundown shacks. They're proper southern homes with wide porches, high ceilings, and the kind of layout that assumes you have family visiting and help in the kitchen. But Pine Bluff's economy never recovered from the closure of its major employers, and the town has struggled with crime and disinvestment ever since. What nobody tells you is that high vacancy rates in Pine Bluff aren't just a real estate quirk, they're a symptom. People aren't leaving because they hate it here. They're leaving because staying started to feel like slowly drowning with a smile. You can buy a mansion for the price of a vacation, but you'll be living in a place where the future tense feels like a foreign language. That's the trade. Cheap and grand or connected and expensive. There's no middle ground left.